Good morning. I messaged everybody on Canvas and on our group chat, and I let everybody know that we had a lot of reading to do today. Lots of pages. I know that there are some pages with questions. You don't have to do all the questions in writing. The only part that you're going to do in writing is the very last page. I think I wrote down all the pages, and then on the very last page I wrote activity A and then A, B, C, and D, just the questions on that one. I think it's activity 1, A, B, C, and D. So you don't have to do all the written questions from the other pages, because we will be covering this here on the YouTube lecture. It's very important that you try to answer questions in the chat box. I may not see everything immediately, but I save the chat, and later on I look at it to make sure that I mark everybody present and I know who's there. If you have a funny name, let me know that that was you, right? I don't know, whoever it was that had, I think it was Mikael is on the toilet. I don't know if that was actually Mikael or if it was somebody else making fun of him, saying that he was on a toilet. So I never know with you guys. So please make sure that you give me a heads up that you're there. And if you're using a funny name, let me know that it's you. So I want to start with a picture first. Let me fix my background a little bit. Here's what we're going to do. I know there are lots of pages, lots of text, but there's also a picture for you to look at. And I want everybody to participate. Even if you think the chat is going too fast, oh, somebody else has already answered, still go ahead and answer it in the chat so that I can see that you've been participating. There are 3 or 4 people who haven't typed anything at all in the chat over the past couple of weeks. It's very well possible that it's not going to stay the way it is, that we're going to have classes in the classroom at school again soon, but we don't know that yet. So as long as we're doing this online, you have to participate and show me that you're there. Some of you have not written anything in chat, have not participated in the video conferences, and have not handed in anything. So that's a triple fail right there. You have to fix that as soon as possible. So back to the order of business for the day. I'll show you a picture first. And you tell me what you see. By tell me, I mean type in chat what you see. This is on your book, but I never know who has the book and who doesn't. So please look at the pictures on the screen. I'd like you to describe the very first picture, the one on the top, on your top left. Tell me what you think he's doing. You may be right, maybe not, but venture and answer. He's actually working at a mosquito net factory in India. Do you know what mosquito nets are? When there are many mosquitoes in the summer. I don't know if you have a good reference for that. There are not that many mosquitoes here in Norway. But in places where there are many mosquitoes, people usually put up a net, either on their walls, not the walls, but on their windows, so they can keep the window open but keep the net so the mosquitoes can't go through. You can also have a net around your bed, so when you're sleeping, the mosquitoes won't come in and bite you. So that's what this little boy is doing. He's working on those. He's making mosquito nets. On the top right, what do you see? If your first guess was that they were cooking, what were you thinking? Were you thinking they're making food? Because it looks like they're cooking. But that's not what they're doing. They're boiling silk cocoons in a factory. You know those beautiful satin, not satin, but silk sheets, the beautiful fabric, silk. So I guess when you wear something like if you're, well, that's probably not a very good example for most of you, since most of you are boys, but if you're a girl and you're wearing a beautiful silk blouse, you don't want to think to yourself, hey, a bunch of little children worked on this so I could wear this beautiful blouse. But that may be the case. So these two little girls in India are doing that. At the very bottom left, what do you see? We kind of talked about this when we started the chapter about challenges. And I said that container or whatever it was that person was carrying, it could have been water. And we talked about a shortage of water. That's what the little girl is doing. She's carrying water from a local well. That's also in India. The first three pictures that we looked at, they're all in India. The very last picture was not taken in India, though. Look at that little boy and tell me what you think he's doing. He is cleaning car windows. But if you pay attention to it, he's probably, if you look at the details in a picture, he's actually standing at an intersection. Like the cars are moving and then they stop, maybe at a stop sign, and he's cleaning the window. He's probably doing that in hopes that he gets some cash for it. My question for you is, what do these four pictures have in common? What do these four pictures have in common? If anything, if you can point out anything. They're all children, that's one thing. Children, kids, minors. They're about the same age. How old do you think the children are? Could be. Besides all of them being kids, what else is there that they have in common? They're all working. They all have jobs at a very young age. What do you personally think about that? Type it in chat so I can see. And remember, even if somebody else has typed before you, or you see the chat going crazy, no, she's never going to see it. I will see it because I will revise the video later and I'll just read the chat myself. I do that all the time so I know who was there and who wasn't. Do any of you see a positive aspect of this? Of the children working? How many of you have jobs? Well, let us just say that you didn't want to work anymore. Could you just quit? Because those children on the pictures there, they cannot quit if they want to. But you have the advantage that you could quit if you wanted to. Something else that the pictures have in common is that the children portrayed in the pictures, they're all living in poverty. 3 of them in India and 1 of them in Bolivia. Don't see a lot of that in Norway. As a matter of fact, the little boy in Bolivia cleaning car windows, that is very common in a lot of countries where there is poverty. As a matter of fact, in Brazil, they also have kids and young men and even older people too. They say they're going to watch your car and they ask you for a little money for that. But watching your car is code for give me $5, otherwise I will scratch your car. It's not a fantastic situation for them, but that's probably for some people the only way they have to make money. So if you haven't guessed already, we're talking about, please go on to page 132 and you will understand the background for the pictures. I may have started a little backwards since I started from page 135 and now we're going back to 132, but I figured it was easier for you to have a mental picture if you had visuals. And the pictures express a lot. They're very powerful images. Page 132. And those of you saying, oh, I didn't bring the book home. Well, I sent you copies of the pages, scanned. They are on Canvas. They're also on our group chat, so there's no excuse. There's no reason why you can look at the pages somewhere. Page 132, and the title is Child Labor. Before we go anywhere with it, look at the spelling of the word labor. L-A-B-O-U-R. Based on that spelling, and based on what you have heard from me and what you learned in 8th grade, which is around the time when you start learning about the differences between British English and American English, tell me, which one is it? The word labor, British or American English, judging by the spelling. L-A-B-O-U-R. Everybody who has written in the chat British, you were right. That's the British spelling. The American spelling for the same word would be L-A-B-O-R without the U. Which one is better? Well, all of them are correct. What you should do, though, is if you're writing in American English, then write everything in American English. Then you spell center T-E-R instead of T-R-E. Then you say I have instead of I have got, and so forth. You need to keep the standard one register. You can't mix them. So I'm hoping that everyone has the page open, either on their phone, on their computer, somewhere, so that we can listen and read. And we're not having a video conference today since there's so much for you to read. Of course, if you need a video conference, I will be available. You can call me on Skype. If you need to say something or if you need some extra explanations, you can reach out to me on any of the platforms. There's plenty for you to use. Child labor is the name of the text that you're going to listen to right now. And what it is just background for the rest of the stories that we're going to read. But in other words, when we started talking about the children on that picture, all of that was background information for what we're going to read right now.
Background: child labour. Have you recently bought a football? Something embroidered? Chocolate? Clothes? If so, there's a good chance you have purchased something made by child labour. Child labour is so widespread in the production of goods and services from so many countries that it can be an enormous challenge to avoid it. The clothing industry in Bangladesh, for example, relies on child labour to keep the cost of production low. For many families in the world, having children who work is necessary to bring in enough money to keep the family going. In Pakistan, for example, nearly 1/5 of the population live below the poverty line. Therefore, families often have to send their children to work. This child labour has consequences. The United Nations has discovered that teenagers are more likely to have accidents than older workers are. we know that more than 150 million children who should be at school are working instead. Half of these children have to do dangerous jobs. This means that many children are killed or injured while at work. There are many reasons why young people are more likely to be injured at work than older workers. Firstly, young people often feel that they cannot say no when they are asked to do a job. In addition, many young workers have to work with dangerous chemicals, especially in farming. A third reason is that these young workers are often migrants who do not understand safety instructions in the local language. On the other hand, a number of signs reveal that things are getting better. The number of young workers actually fell by 90 million between 2000 and 2016. There are more schools in the world now, which means that more and more young people are able to get an education instead of working. In addition, more countries are making laws against child labour. However, there is still a long way to go. 2 countries where English is an official language are among the countries where child labour is most common. Nigeria. Over 15 million children below the age of 14 are child labourers. Girls enter the labour world at an earlier age than boys, often as domestic help in households. Both boys and girls are often involved in agriculture. India, the world's second most populated country, has as many as 33 million child labourers. Some of the places where children in India work include mines, farms, and garment factories. Despite efforts by the Indian government, the number of child workers has increased over recent years. Many children move to the big cities to find work.
I'm going to be asking you some questions about what you just listened to and read, hopefully. I know that some of you don't like to look at the words while you listen, but that is actually a very good exercise and I really recommend it. Because that way you can look at the word and listen to it, and then you will become a better speller that way. Anyway, let's start with the first question. Make sure you type it in the chat box, whatever you feel is the right answer. And don't be discouraged if the chat's going too fast and other people are already typing the answer, because I will look at it later. And it makes a difference whether you participate or not. Some of you haven't typed anything in chat over the past couple of weeks, and it's kind of worrying me. The first question is, if you look at the text, I'm going to start asking questions from the top paragraph. Why is it that in many families in the world, children have to work? Why is it necessary? To bring in enough money to keep the family going, that's one answer. But I would have accepted anything if you wrote, for example, on a test, if you wrote, they need to work in order to help the family. That is correct as well. Of course, you can just take the words exactly as they were in the text. I would have accepted that, but you can say it in your own words as well. The next question. Name one consequence of child labor. So the book mentions a few consequences. Teenagers are more likely to have accidents than older workers. Instead of being at school where they should be, they're working. A lot of them get killed at work. All of those are consequences of child labor. Next question, before we move on to the rest of the text. Give me one reason why young people are more likely to be injured at work than older workers. They feel like they can't say no to doing a job. The dangerous chemicals in farming. What else? And some of them are migrants who don't understand the instructions in the local language. The last question about this part of the text. Which countries are mentioned here on the text as being countries where there's a lot of child labor going on? Nigeria is one, and India is another one. Now let's move on to where we're going to start with the text Boys Without Names, page 133. I'm actually going to put the page here on the screen for you so you know which page it is. We're going to take this in parts. I'm not going to play the entire thing. I will stop and ask questions.
Boys Without Names by Kashmira Sheth. When Gopal's family first arrive in the city, they quickly run out of money and have to live on the streets. In the first excerpt, his father, Baba, is talking to a store owner in Mumbai.
You're like thousands of others who poured into Mumbai and its suburbs looking for a better life, the store owner says, opening up an old newspaper. This place is big, but not big enough for everyone. Thousands of others? I don't understand, Baba says. The store owner picks up a page of newspaper, tears it in half, and rolls each into a cone. He fills one with rice and the other with lentils. Yes, every single day people from Bihar, Bengal, Gujarat, Karnataka, Assam, Madhya Pradesh and other states come to this city wanting a good life. We can't feed and give homes to everyone, he mumbles. But we are willing to work and not live on charity, Baba protests. I know, but don't you realize that there are too many people like you looking for work?
Gopal is tricked and kidnapped by someone who says that he can help him to find work to support his family. When he wakes up, he is imprisoned in a run-down building. The boss, who he calls Scar, forces Gopal and several other boys to make picture frames. The boys do not know each other's real names. Gopal gives them nicknames that he can use, like Thick Fingers.
He brushes his hair back.
Let's just talk about this first part. I have a couple of questions I'm going to ask. The first question is, where does the story take place? Mumbai is correct. What kind of work are the boys doing? By the way, if any of you, if you have any trouble listening, if the sound is not very good, you will receive a link. As a matter of fact, I'll just put in chat and you can listen to it later on if you feel like you need to listen to it again. So what kind of work are they doing? They're making picture frames. Next question. The boys are not called by their names. How are they identified? By nicknames, that's correct. Can you name one nickname that's talked about at the very bottom of that page? Thick Fingers is his nickname. We're going to listen to a bit more, but you are going to do some work on your own. You're going to work on the questions on page 137 on your own. We're just going to cover a little bit more of this text, but you will have to read some of it on your own. I'm going to also give you the study set with the vocabulary. The vocabulary will be all translated into Norwegian, and it will be a part of a vocabulary test later on this year. So page 134.
And holds my gaze. This is what we do. He puts his frame on the desk and spreads a thin layer of glue on one side. His hair has fallen down onto his forehead again. Your turn. I copy him, but the layer of glue is too thick. He slaps my hand. Don't be so wasteful. Use as little glue as possible. My throat is on fire and my eyes water. I can't stop coughing. Thick Fingers snickers. That's what happens when you use too much glue. It gets in your breath and burns as it goes down. So one more reason to use as little as you can, get it? Thick Fingers pinches me hard on the side. I muffle a cry. He points at the paper. This is our design. No mistakes are allowed. Work. If you don't get 4 of these done before lunch, you'll have to work right through and there won't be any food for you. Understand? I nod. It is difficult to work in the silence. Time walks by on its hands, slowly and painfully. Fumes from the glue sting my eyes. Relief comes only when the nimba leaves flutter and the light scent wafts through the room, temporarily masking the stink. Scar pokes his head from halfway up the ladder and motions for Thick Fingers to follow him. After they leave, I whisper to Rocking Boy, "What's your name?" He gives me a blank look that is filled with sadness before he lowers his gaze. I sigh. You do have a name, don't you? Rocking Boy looks in the direction of the ladder. He nods. Tell me, or else I will call you Rocking Boy. Dimpled Chin giggles. I put a finger to my mouth. He whispers, I like the name Rocking Boy. Can I have it? You already have a nice name. I have named you Dimpled Chin. Is it better than Rocking Boy? It is for you, because you are the only one with a dimple. Rocking Boy has not answered my question. I give him an encouraging smile. He stays quiet. Just call him Rocking Boy, Dimpled Chin says. The boy with grey eyes leans over and slaps Dimpled Chin. You have the biggest mouth on this side of the moon. He is missing 2 front teeth, exposing his yellow gums. Since he is the last in line and closest to the ladder, I ask, is someone coming up? He stares at me. What's your name? I whisper. No names, he hisses. Here we're anamic, without names, I say. You are so good at giving names. Why don't you give me one? I think about it. He has stooped shoulders, grey eyes that are filled with anger, missing teeth and yellow gums. How about if I call you Grey Cloud, GC for short? Just never talk to me. Today, Scar gives us new patterns. Here is the thing, boys. You must all do export quality work on these frames. It is a large order, and we have to finish in time for their holiday season. So get going. I won't allow a single mistake. He doesn't wait for us to start work before leaving. What is export quality? I ask. I thought you were the smart one. Don't you know what it means? GC laughs, making his shoulders hunch even more. Thick Fingers puts his stubby hand up. Don't bicker, do your work. Export quality means you have to do your best work because these things will be sold in faraway countries.
I'm only going to ask questions C and D. If you look at the page, right next to the text there are 4 questions, A, B, C, and D. Right under where it says understand. I already talked about A and B. Not in those exact words, but I did ask you something about that. So let's take C and D. C. What happens when the boys use too much glue? Any of the answers would have been accepted. It hurts their eyes. It feels uncomfortable to them. It's difficult to work under those conditions. Or you can take it straight from the text. It gets in their breath and burns that it goes down, because that's what it says there. Letter D. What will happen if Gopal cannot make enough frames? He won't have enough money, his family won't have food. Any of those answers would have been accepted. Now for the last part of the text. Page 134.
Which countries? Dimpled Chin asks. I don't know their names, but it doesn't matter to me and shouldn't matter to you. All we have to do is work on the order, Thick Fingers replies. I fill my bead tray, apply glue to a frame, and recreate the pattern on the frame as fast as I can. My palm is so sweaty that I can't keep a firm grip on the blunt needle that I use to pick up beads. It keeps sliding away. I wipe my hands on my shorts often, but that slows me down. The only good part is that everyone else is doing the same thing. How far will these frames travel? Will they cross the oceans on a boat or fly on a plane? Who are the lucky people who will buy them? Maybe one will end up in a young girl's room. She will never know a young boy like her made the frame with his sweat and tears while his heart ached for his family.
What does export quality mean? That's question letter B at the very bottom of the page. This is actually, they start talking about it on page 134. If you go back a page, at the very bottom, paragraph 7. Export quality means you have to do your best work because these things will be sold in faraway countries. And then they start talking about which countries, and they bicker a little bit. What does Gopal think about while he's making the frames for export? He's thinking about where the frames will go and who's going to have them. That's what he's thinking about. We're going to listen to the last part, and then you will do page 137, activity 1, A, B, and C. Those are the only ones that you have to do.
The boys begin to dream about escaping or even attacking Scar, but none of them dares to make the first move. However, one day Scar gets sick. Gopal is sent out to buy sweets for him. He thinks about running away, but quickly realizes that Scar will punish the other boys for this. Instead, he hatches a plan. He will tell somebody about what has happened and ask for help.
The sweet shop is mobbed with shoppers. Maybe if I can write a note, I can slip it to the shopkeeper. Maybe he is as nice as the owner of the Deepak food store. I remember I have a pencil tucked in my raincoat, but I don't have a piece of paper. Then an idea comes to me. I have a 50 rupee note on which I can write. Quickly, I move away a few steps, take out the pencil, and fold open the bill and rest it on the raincoat. On one side is the picture of Mahatma Gandhi. I try to write on the same side. My hands tremble so much that first I have to take a few deep breaths. Please rescue us. We are 6 boys in the old building 3 streets down by the nimba tree with the broken branch. Please hurry. What do you want? The shopkeeper bends down and asks. I, have enough money for a small box of sweets. I hand him the money. He opens the bill, and everything seems to stop for me. He pauses, his eyebrows go up, and his face becomes stiff. Then, instead of handing my money to the man with the cash box, he slips it into his shirt pocket. He picks up a small box and gives it to me. Don't worry, he says.
Do you think Gopal and the other boys will manage to escape from Scar? Go to citizens.cdu.no to find out.
Well, now the last thing that we're going to do is I just got a message from one of you asking what time the class is. The time when it always is. It starts at 10:30 for some of you, 12:30 for some of you. We'll do one round of Quizlet Live, just a one round, and you can use the rest of the time to complete your tasks. If anybody needs anything, you can go ahead and get in touch with me. As soon as you get the code, go straight in. I'm hoping that everybody will participate, but if I have like 90% of the names in chat, I'm just going to start it. Okay, your tasks for the day, page 137, number 1, A, B, and C. And you can hand in via email, Canvas, the group chat, anywhere as long as it gets to me.